Hello, my dear friends of localization. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Localization podcast. And yeah, now I already have a name. I didn't have a name when I was recording episode number 1, but I do have a name now. I do have the podcast registered on several hosting podcasting services. And I also snatched the domain localizationpodcast.com that in a few years I'm going to sell for a lot of money. Haha. Well, today, so I'm going to share with you this one thing before we start talking about localization, and that is that I was kind of scared. I had like this internal fear to start recording this episode, and by the way, it's Saturday, 10:49 p.m. And I think one of the reasons was that I wanted to do like some little preparation before I start recording, so that I don't have to read every article for the first time for this podcast and then have like nothing to say or just say some bullshit that is written in the article and that is not very relevant or valuable to you. So, and as I was going through the articles, I think I got stuck on the first one because I didn't know like much like what I could add. And so that kind of brought up the fear in me that like what will be the value that I will be providing in this episode. And I don't want to be just the guy who just like reads some articles of other people who know more about localization than I do. And especially like with Slater, there are like a lot of like kind of like high level business strategy articles. And of course, I don't have like experience in every aspect of localization, or especially when it comes to business. But then I should just keep in mind that I'll just do my best and see what happens. And I just want to keep going with this, and hopefully it will get better. I said this last time, so I don't know. I just want to keep doing this. So with that said, I went over the articles from Slater.com because that's like the only source of new publications for the localization industry. There were 5 new articles in the last week, and I ditched one of the articles because I think it was actually related to something that I could talk about. It was actually about post-editing machine translation. But like the article was like structured in a very weird way, like the style that it was written. So I decided to skip it, and I have 4 articles this time. And lucky for you, this time I won't have to explain why I started the Localization podcast, so let's get right into it. I should probably mention that my voice is a bit nasal these days as I got sick on Monday, Tuesday. So I hope you can survive it. And without further ado, let's get right into the first article from Slater. And it is New Language Industry IPO as Korea's Flitto prepares for scalability-based listing. The latest language industry IPO is underway in Korea. Appen-style language data startup Flitto expects to raise around 33 million USD in its initial public offering when it begins trading on July 17, 2019. So that will be the next week. Flitto was founded in 2012 and is now listing on the development board of KOSDAQ, the electronic trading platform of the Korea Exchange. KOSDAQ was launched in 1996 and is modeled on the US-based NASDAQ. The Korean company conducted a demand forecast on July 1st and July 2nd, 2019, which was oversubscribed more than 1,100 times, garnering interest from 1,300 institutional investors, according to Korean online media. So what is Flitto? Flitto is a South Korean language data company that offers crowdsourced translation as well as professional translation services. The platform has upwards of 10 million estimated users. Much of the company's revenue comes from selling text, voice, and image data generated from translation services to data-hungry tech companies such as Microsoft and Baidu. The company also offers subtitling for YouTube content. There is a big market for selling language data and AI support services to companies that use it to power capabilities such as neural machine translation and image or speech recognition. This market continues to grow as more companies begin to develop solutions that require good quality underlying data for machine learning applications. Flitto's revenues have grown rapidly over the past 3 years in line with this increased demand, rising from $0.36 million USD in 2015 to $4.4 million in 2018. Sales for 2019 are expected to reach $6.2 million. So if they expect their IPO to value, they want to raise 33 million. Does it mean it's going to be 5 times multiplier the revenue? That's quite a lot. As Flitto's demand forecast has shown, interest from investors in the AI support services market is strong. Moreover, investor confidence in language data trailblazer Appen remains sky high, with shares in the Australia-listed company doubling from January to the end of June 2019. Appen's shares have shot up more than 5,000% since its IPO in 2015, and the company's market cap currently stands north of $2 billion. Okay. So what is interesting here is that because I actually had no idea what this Flitto company does, so I went to their website and I saw on their homepage they have kind of like a crowdsourced translation, which I think first is machine translated, and then it goes to their pool of crowd translators. And actually, right now I'm looking at the homepage, and it says the crowdsourcing service, that natural translation that fits each purpose with 10.3 million crowdsourcing users around the world. Average response time is 3 minutes. And you also have the option to get a professional translator, which they call one-to-one pro translation. So I'm actually wondering if, because when I was reading this article, the thing that kind of struck me was if you can actually resell the data that somebody else pays for, because that's what I understand that they're doing, that there are people who are requesting translations, and then when these translations get finalized, I assume that then they just sell them as feed data for the AI to train the machine translation. Is that correct or is that not correct? I have no idea. If you have any input, please let me know, because it's actually surprising, because when we had our company retreat, we were talking about something similar, and one of the questions that we raised is that whether you're not breaching a contract with your client if you would do this. Not that we do it, okay, so just let me be explicit that we don't resell the translations that we do for our clients, just to make it sure. So that's why actually this struck me, that this company does it, and according to the article, it seems that it's kind of like a big business. So is it something like with Facebook, that Facebook like gives you a free platform, but then they resell the data about you. But in this case, like the translations that they're reselling, the data, they're not like free. Like, because like even the crowdsourced translations are being paid for, as long as I understood the service correctly. Was there anything else important? I think no. One thing to note is that when I was going through these articles, it's like machine translation is like in every other article. So I know that the first episode was quite heavy on machine translation, so is this one. So I think it's definitely something that's coming, and that it's going to change the industry, especially when it comes to translators. I think it depends on how easy and cost effective it will be to deploy these machine translations, and whether there will be just like some like service that you can just get from like, I don't know, SDL or from these guys, or whether you would need to start training your engine every time. Second article is about chatbots, multilingual chatbots. The conversation has yet to get longer. Article published on July 9th, 2019. Sales is about conversation. Chatbots bring this age-old element of commerce to the online world. Multilingual chatbots make on-demand information accessible to a company's global customers, creating value in marketing as well as customer support. Gartner forecasts that 25% of customer support and services will be integrated with virtual assistants by 2020. While no figures are available on how multilingual the bot population is, some locations are more inclined to use chatbots than others. Sorry, it's like when I speak for a longer period of time, it's like my voice is going away and my throat starts to get itchy. European consumers are more receptive to chatbots than those in the US. 50% of French customers hold a positive opinion on bots as opposed to only 32% of Americans. Good for the French people. Currently, chatbots are mostly used in the leading languages of global e-commerce. English, Fix, that's French, Italian, German, and Spanish. Portuguese, Arabic, Russian, Chinese, and Dutch. They have also made steady inroads into long-tail languages from India and Africa to support the region's emerging e-commerce industry. Not all chatbots are born equal, while some are purely menu or button-based and pose the least challenge, localization-wise. Chatbots that are keyword and context-based aim to provide a more fulfilling user experience. Hence, the latter need to have better language skills. Menu button-based chatbots are preloaded with canned responses. They are good enough in short conversations, but have limited capability to respond to questions with more variables or long-tail questions. So yeah, that's kind of like navigating like a website. Technically, if we're talking about like menu or button-based chatbots, because you just navigate like a kind of like a tree of responses, and it's not very difficult, because basically you just need to translate the responses. Then the article continues. Keyword-based chatbots essentially dip into knowledge base to respond to queries from the user after they listen to specific keywords that users type in. They make use of previously translated data from the knowledge base. However, when queries become more nuanced or similar keywords are used, keyword-based virtual assistants can get confused. And the funny thing is that today, actually, before I started doing these podcasts and before I read these articles, I interacted with a first, I don't think it was my first chatbot ever, but like in a long time. It was a chatbot from Kudo, which is our local mobile operator in Canada. And I have to say that it was pretty good experience. And this one was kind of like probably tailored towards younger people, because it also on top of text responses, it also included like a GIF images of, like, I don't know, there was like a cat based on what the chatbot was responding, or there was like a little, or the penguin, yeah, that's the name of the animal. There was like a little penguin like running around or something like that. So yeah, it was a pretty good experience. And yeah, like if you think about it, if like these chatbots are at the current stage, they're kind of like, I don't know if this article actually has some data. Oh yeah, it actually does have this data. And this is what I wanted to say. So this will be from the article. Even at this stage, chatbots are expected to bring in cost savings of $11 billion in retail, banking, and healthcare sectors. So not everybody who immediately as a customer goes to customer support, not everybody has like a very sophisticated query. And if you have like very simple queries and you're like lazy to find them out, and you just deploy this automated chatbot that can dig up the information from the knowledge base and serve it to the customer, and they get their answer like I did today, then that's the money that you saved on the people who would otherwise had to provide this answer manually. You would have to train them, you would have to, I don't know, rely on them, how they feel, and like even their responses. And I'm not sure if I'm correct here, because I have never worked in customer support. Yeah, so you would have to train them, you would have to pay them, and even then, maybe their answers are different each day. While with chatbot, you have kind of like the right way, the right messaging all the time. So yeah, and then once the chatbot kind of feels like lost, or they cannot provide any more support to the customer, then you just direct the customer to the actual human agent. And that's what even in the article is written. So I'm going to finish the article. Chatbots that remember, try to understand meaning, and then respond appropriately need to have better language skills than their humbler peers. People believe that anything they talk to must necessarily have human-like capabilities in language, thus expectations can be high. There are also the challenges brought on by people using multiple languages in the same chat, or translating into another language. For example, in India, it would be common to have users typing out Hindi queries in English. In Africa, people may mix English and Swahili in Kenya, or French and Arabic in Algeria. Plugging into a machine translation API can go some way by virtue of keyword detection, but may not be ready to work with live customers at scale. Even when the likes of Facebook have bots that could easily detect language given all the information in the user's profile, it is still not enough for a fluent user experience. Conversational user interfaces, or CUIs, which is essentially what a chatbot is, need to be supported by systems powered by natural language processing and machine learning. Language designers, a new job description, are required to aid this learning, manage terminology, and adapt the script to new locales. Designing virtual assistants to conduct a human-like conversation is a tall order and requires a different set of skills than those supplied by developers. It needs the creativity of poets. And when the chatbot goes international, it is required to be similarly steered through various languages by transcreators, who combine the expertise of copywriters and translators. Additionally, domain-specific fine-tuning would require collaboration with subject matter experts. The technology is still relatively new, and chatbots may currently be best suited to filling in the gap before the handoff to human agents. That's what I was talking about before. Even at this stage, chatbots are expected to bring in cost savings of 11 billion USD in the retail, banking, and healthcare sectors. However, with advances in artificial intelligence, human-machine interactions are expected to become more commonplace, not just more efficient, and longer conversations may develop. Humans and machines are currently working on that. The end of the article. Third article is about Trump. Trump's administration, and this is the one that I really reduced quite a bit because there was like a lot of extra stuff, and I don't think I will even be commented, but let's see, maybe I'll come up with something. So the title is Trump administration's deregulation drive begins to impact language industry. Man, these titles are sometimes rough for me. According to a July 3rd article in the San Francisco Chronicle, the U.S. Justice Department had informed judges in immigration court about a new system that could kick in mid-July 2019. Instead of in-person interpreters, immigrants facing deportation in the US will get a video explaining their rights in multiple languages. Quote, after that, if immigrants have questions, want to say something to the judge, or if the judge wants to confirm they understand, no interpreter would be provided, the same report said. The newspaper also quoted a Justice Department official as saying that it is all part of an effort to be good stewards of the department's limited resources, and that the new system did not represent a policy change. So yeah, we're saving money. The Justice Department billed the move as a cost-saving measure. Sources familiar with the interpreter situation say there have been ongoing issues with the budget and the contract with the primary interpreter provider, leading the administration to encourage more use of the telephone service and look for other ways to keep costs down, the Chronicle wrote. Second part, federally regulated healthcare may also experience similar changes. A 204-page document released on May 24, 2019 by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services proposes to, among other measures, replace video remote interpreting services with audio-based services, as it believes that additional video standards may not justify the costs. The HHS, which is the Health and Human Services document, qualifies that the proposed rule retains these access standards for persons who are deaf or hard of hearing. According to the same document, the HHS also plans to relax regulations that require healthcare agencies to provide limited English proficiency patients a written notice of free translation services, aka taglines. which it said could relieve the US healthcare industry of an average 5-year burden of $3.16 billion. That's the end of the article about Trump. And I have no special comments, except for saying that, of course, cost savings. Okay, let's get to the last article, please. And that will be Reader Polls, MT and subject matter expertise, feature CAT, outperforming LSPs. And this is kind of like internal Slater article. And it says, each week we poll the more than 10,500 subscribers to Slater's weekly email newsletter. And by the way, I subscribe as well. Asking them to weigh in on what is top of the mind in the industry in the context of recent news. That's interesting. At the end of June, we wanted to know if subject matter expertise is becoming even more important at the expense of source language proficiency, as neural machine translation increasingly does a lot of what some call the grunt work of translating words. Many LSPs are experimenting with workflows where subject matter experts do light post-editing of machine translated content, mostly looking out for obvious errors in terminology and apparent flaws from a simpler reading of the target language without having to refer back to the source. Our readers are fairly evenly divided over whether better MT does indeed drive the trade-off of source language proficiency in favor of subject matter expertise, with 43% disagreeing, 39% agreeing, and 17% saying it depends. Someone who is firmly in the yes camp is Stratos creator Corion CEO and newly appointed board member of Polish LSP Summa Lingue, Jochen Hammer. In an interview on his recent appointment, Hammer told Slater that NMT's human parity changes everything because doing words is done by a machine. However, for several use cases, revision by subject matter experts is required. So this is the article that I was commenting in the first episode, and I think I spent most of the time commenting on this. So what it says right now, that NMT will require revision by subject matter experts, I think I agree with that. What I did not agree with last time was that translators are subject matter experts, because I don't think they are. And when it comes to source language proficiency versus subject matter expertise, I think that subject matter expertise will matter more the better MT gets. Okay, what do we have next here? But how will linguists work with all this increasingly high quality machine output? In a report presented at the International Annual Meeting on Language Arrangements, Documentation and Publications, that's all one event. It's actually, the acronym is IAMLADP. So that's 7 letters. It's a forum. So this forum, held in Brussels from May 27 to 29, the European Union said that language technologies and AI ideally take over the mundane part of language professionals' work. Now, what does mundane mean? Is it kind of like a boring Mundane. Yeah, lacking interest. Yeah, I agree with that. The EU, one of the world's largest buyers and users of translation, said that most of its translation services have now integrated its e-translation service into their pre-processing arrangements and provide NMT output to their linguists. That said, the EU still sees room for improvement in terms of usability, and emphasized that the future smarter cat environment is yet to be developed. Over 90% of the Slater readers we polled agree. Okay, that's nice. So EU is also doing NMT and giving it to their linguists. But yes, there's still room for improvement. What do they mean when they say the future smarter cat environment? How would it be smarter? I have no idea. I'm just thinking that like you just get the NMT output and then you just fix it. Ideally in context. Somehow. I don't know. I cannot see the future right now. I'm sorry. To finish the article, investors meanwhile continue to believe in the future of language services. So much so that the small group of publicly listed language service providers handily outperformed the broader stock market since the beginning of the year. Leading the charge are Australia's Appen and Tokyo-listed Rosetta, but RWS and Keyword Studios too put in a solid first half of 2019, while Honyaku Center and SDL struggled and Zoo Digital nosedived after one of its main customers changed supply chain operations. We ask our readers to do some crystal ball gazing, and over half express confidence that the language industry's good run is set to last for the next 12 months. And that's the end of the article. Bum, 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 bum. And I don't think I have anything extra to add on top of this, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, I know that last time, and even in my description of the Localization podcast, I said that I also cover social media. So I'm still going to be not fully delivering on that promise. But here's the thing. So I looked at Facebook, and on Facebook there's only one group, I think. And I think that the content there inside was the usual bullshit, you know. I'm not sure if it's like administered by people from, is it Logrus or what is the name of the company? I know I saw some Russian guys there, and most of the articles were, I think, for the Russian vendor. So probably not very useful. The same with Reddit, and I think I was already talking about Reddit before. So the localization Reddit is full of links to white papers and articles of some LSPs who discovered Reddit. Hello, 2019. And by the way, I think let me check it because I wanted to see like what we can do with the Reddit, and I made this encouraging post. When was it? I did it 22 days ago. And the title of the post was, "Why is this subreddit dead?" And it's still, if you go to Localization Reddit, and if you sort by hot, which is I think the default one, this post is still on the third place. And my second question, which was, how do you decide which languages to translate your website into? That post, which I made the second day after that, is on the second place. So I'm not sure if this is just showing just for me or for other people, but yeah, localization Reddit is pretty much that. And so with that being said, I know that I wanted to focus mainly on LinkedIn, and I requested access to few groups that I found on LinkedIn, but I just checked it before I started recording, and for some reason I'm still waiting for approval, so I'm not sure what that means. So the only thing that I did extra was that I checked the hashtag localization on LinkedIn, and there were like a lot of posts. Nothing that stood up except for one thing. There was like this one company that had this video which was actually produced using like a how would you call it, like a video marketing service. It's a very nice tool. I forgot the name now. And you just type in the text and it creates like this video with all this stock footage behind, and your text will become like subtitles, and it looks nice, but it's not the same as if you would produce it on your own. And I think this video was like about like introduction about their company, like what they do. They bring value to the customers and blah blah blah. And they mentioned that there are like two types of translation agencies. One that does like 1 or 2 languages at max, and then there's the second one like them, which does, I don't know, like they view translation from end to end or whatever. And they started calling translation management as a service. So I really did not understand it. And there was like no comment, so I just asked, like, I don't understand, like, what is the difference between translation management as a service versus like what regular LSPs do? Because like everybody is here to help the clients, be a global successful brand with successful products or services, right? So I don't know, like, if they're, I don't know, like what's their goal. But when I checked their website, I actually like the idea that they are trying to. When I first okay, let me start again. When I first landed on the website, the first thing that came up was, and it surprised me because that message wasn't part of the video, but on their website it says that they're actually helping the Asian companies go international, and that's a very nice idea, which I think I maybe even had before myself, because when I was living in Southeast Asia, I think I wanted to focus like on like Asian customers, or maybe I just wanted to go to Philippines because I like Philippines and focus on Philippines. But yeah, so that is kind of like a niche idea, and I like it, and they do have some customers. So let's see if they actually reply. And speaking about social media, I think maybe last week I found this, somehow it ended up on my feed on LinkedIn. I think it's a company called Word B. I think they have some, I don't know, maybe like cloud translation management or whatever. And I was checking something. I think I was checking like their presence on LinkedIn, or was it Twitter? I think maybe it was Twitter. I don't know right now. Yeah, I think it was Twitter. And they had like a nice post, like most of the time. They were not selling their stuff. But then I found like one post which was like joke posting. And when I clicked the link to their website, like their very first sentence had like a really bad grammatical error. So I told them like, hey guys, like please fix this. But they did not reply to me, so that's a very bad sign. That's a very bad sign. You cannot be posting like a lot of content on social media, and then when you get like one comment, like in like a blue moon, you just ignore it. That's very bad. That's very bad. Don't do it. Okay, and with that being said, I'm barely breathing, and I have to drink water every few minutes because my throat gets very itchy. So I'm going to end this podcast, episode number 2, right here. I don't think it is that valuable. I think the first one was probably much more valuable. I think that maybe I should really focus on articles, or just like, I don't know, like questions like here and there on social media, where I can provide actually more content. So maybe I need to switch my focus. And again, this will probably sound like an excuse, and it probably is. I just wanted to get this done today, that is Saturday, so I can start exporting the video for YouTube during the night, because it's like 1 hour video and it takes like a couple of hours to export, and I want to be ready by Monday to release the podcast with all the copywriting, so that I don't have to do it at the very last minute. And tomorrow I have to cook, and I also need to do a little bit of work. So that's why I wanted to do it now. And yeah, that will be it. Thank you for listening, and talk to you in 1 week. Bye.